Right, I am calling the meeting to order, and we have 2 action items today and 3 informational items, so we have a pretty busy day. We'll get started. President McPhee, do you have any opening remarks before we call the roll?
No, Madam Chairperson, thank you.
Okay, and Jeff, can we call the roll, please?
Trustee Baker.
Here.
Trustee Boyd.
Here.
Trustee DeLay.
Here.
Trustee Jacobs.
Here.
Trustee Martin.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Committee Chair Wright.
Here.
Trustee McDonald.
Here.
General Huber. Here. Mr. Massaro. Present. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. We don't have anyone electronically today, so we don't need to do voice votes unless it may be a particular item that we want to do that with. So, first of all, action item, approval of the minutes. Could I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Who made the motion, please? I'm sorry.
Delay.
DeLay.
Okay, is there any discussion? All right. Will all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All those oppose? Okay, the motion carries for approval of the minutes. So our next information is an information item, Diversity Student Success Initiative, and Provost Burns has the floor.
Thank you and good morning. It's my pleasure to bring up Dr. Rick Sluter, who you've heard from before. I don't know if we bragged on him quite enough. Rick is really nationally known for his work in student success. You know, Dr. McPhee back in 2013 set this as a central goal for us. You hear a lot about Georgia State, but now you hear a lot about MTSU nationally too. So Rick is going to give a presentation on this question of sort of an update of where we are. He's got a couple colleagues with him that I think he'll bring up, and then I'll come and with a few closing remarks, and then if that's okay, Mr. Chairman, have questions at that point. So, Dr. Sluter.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Burns. Much appreciated. And so good to see you again. I appreciate the opportunity to come and tell more of the story about student success at MTSU. And so let's start this way. So this is one of my favorite pictures. This is from our Scholars Academy, which is a discussion for the first presentation this morning, just to provide an overview. Now, I've got 2 of my colleagues here, I'll call them up in a moment, who are with the Scholars Academy. Berlinda Johnson, who has been with MTSU for 12 years. She's the manager of the Scholars Academy. And so she came as an advisor and then worked in that capacity, an advising manager, and then came over to the Scholars Academy, is the manager, and is really the brains and the brawn and, you know, everything that academy is doing right now. And then Travis Stratton is an assistant manager with the Scholars Academy. Travis has an interesting story. He came here in 2007. He was one of our students, and he was very actively engaged in the life of the campus. And then he finished in 2013. So he spent a little time here, and then went off and went to 2 other institutions to work and get experience, and then we were fortunate enough to bring him back. So let me start there and welcome them. I'll invite them up. So as we kind of go through the flow here in terms of what is going on, just an overview. There's 13 slides. I'm really a slide counter. I think you know that. And just to kind of run through some of the details. Let me push the right button here. Sorry about that. In case I got anybody with that laser. And so how about the origins of the Academy? This Scholars Academy has been around a long time. But it's just not a new invention. It goes back to 2005 and is something that we have great pride in. This changed over the years, and I won't read those bullets to you, but you know, it started in 2005, and then originally it was a program that invited 30 students or so to our summer 5-week academy in the middle of the summer. And so we got students to do that, believe it or not, give up 5 weeks in the middle of the summer to come to MTSU to be a part of this academy. And so that academy has evolved as time has gone along. As you see there, In 2016 to 2018, we revised it to make it into a 2-week, what we call now early arrival program. And so that means students come 2 weeks before the start of the semester and get, brought on board for what their college experience is going to be. And we weren't so sure that was going to work. We went from a 5-week academy to a 2-week. The data are clear that a difference is made and that there is something that occurs when we bring students to our campus. So all these changes were informed by national best practices. We didn't make stuff up year to year to think like, let's try something else this year. Really looking at information and watching what the best in the class is doing in terms of the academy. Let me ask my colleague, Miss Berlinda Johnson, to come, and we're going to work our way through a few of these slides here. So, Berlinda.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Sluter. As Dr. Sluter talks about, with the expansion of the Scholars Academy in 2016, it was a part of the strategic planning. For the first quest, it was expanded or asked to be increased as a strategic plan. And so it continues to be a part of our strategic planning even going into 2025 as we start to talk about eliminating the achievement gaps. I came on board in 2018 from advising, and so with that I knew that we needed a support system, and we also needed to raise and elevate the profile of the Scholars Academy to our campus. People knew that it existed, but we needed to be transparent about what that program is and what it did. And so what I did was create some support systems around the campus to be able to talk to people about what this program is. So we had advisor support, we brought in campus partners from different areas, health services, math, tutoring services, and we did a program redesign. So we looked at 2 weeks, but what we really was looking at is making the program more a seamless transition from that program to the beginning of the semester. And we also knew that it was important for us to have some communication with not only the parents, but high school counselors. So we put in a recruiting plan where we went to the high schools. We talked to the counselors about this program so that we can attract the appropriate students for our Scholars Academy. And as always, a good program is going to have a good mission statement. And so one thing that we like to say within this is a part of the university. It's a part of the university's plan. And our mission is to look at students holistically and look at them and approach them realistically in where they are. So we began to refine the program. One thing I want to make sure that we point out when we talk about Scholars Academy is the Scholars Academy has several different components. It's not just a 2-week early arrival program. The Freshman Summer Institute is a component of the Scholars Academy, but we also have a peer mentor program where we train peer mentors that are upperclassmen. We also have different initiatives that we do with these students. And so in the reformat, what we wanted to do was create a more of a program that allowed students to be able to see what it was going to be like when they came to college. So we did a reformative schedule where students take classes, preparation classes in math and reading, college vocabulary, and they take those on the schedule that they would when they come to MTSU. So a Monday, Wednesday schedule, Tuesday, Thursday schedule. What this allowed us to do was be able to accelerate the process for them and so that we could learn to intervene. So now we know with these students that are a little bit more at risk, we know earlier where we're going to need to help them, time management, study skills, those types of things. And with the reformat, what we learned was that we needed to stream the program to a certain amount of students. And so Scholars Academy became a 200 enrollment program, and we created a second program called STAR, which is the Student Transition and Academic Readiness Program, to allow all students that were interested in being in an early arrival program to get that experience. We had several students that wanted to do it, but they thought 2 weeks was a little too long. And so we then met the needs of the students and the parents and created a second program, which is a 1-week program, which is structured like a student conference. So we have big academic sessions in the morning, and in the afternoon we have breakout sessions sessions where they learn about resources, all the resources that we have on our campus. In 2020, we had to, of course, reformat it. I've been here 3 years, and we've reformatted the Scholars Academy structure to meet the needs in those 3 years. So we went remote and had one of the most successful programs that we've had in the last couple years just by reformatting it to remote. And we did our peer mentor training and our Freshman Summer Institute remote, as well as our weekly meetings with our students during the fall semester remote.
Talk about investing in this program. Just a couple quick points. All along, the President's office has been a direct supporter. We've never worried about resources for this program at all. It's been more about, you tell us what you need, we'll provide what it is to support it. And so as you see there, the annual support from the President's office in a full bore program where we have full enrollment is about $500,000 a year. And that's money that we invest in those students because the benefit is evident in them returning and graduating. So annually, that's the investment. There's indirect costs in there that are not counted. And so you'll see, for instance, our colleague Vincent Windrow isn't here today, but he is the leader for that program and was hired to bring in to oversee, manage, and lead and to evolve that program. You've met our other two colleagues here who are dedicated to that program. I think a lot of people believe, what do you need a full staff for if it's, 2 weeks early arrival? And the reason is because it's a year-long program. It's 2 weeks. And then, of course, once those students are here, there's regular contact. They're working with them. It is something to make a difference with those students. Well, Travis is one of our investments. And so one of the things we love to do is talk about, the stories behind the program. I love the data. And here's, Travis to talk about some of the investments that we've made and to talk through some of these items.
Good morning. I just wanted to add some context in terms of what we do and how we really involve this program. And so we employ peer mentors in the Scholars Academy. And so peer mentors are those more senior students, right? Sophomores, juniors, seniors, who were just in these first-year students' shoes, who can give them, the ins and outs about the college-going process in that 2 weeks, but not just in the 2 weeks, but throughout the tenure here. So you have peer-to-peer relationships that form organically, and it's truly one of the biggest highlights of the program. I like to call the peer mentors the boots on the ground, right? Belinda and I, we can do our magic and do our work, but we really rely heavily on our peer mentors to really, truly support our students and what we want to do in Scholars Academy. And so one of the unique components that I like about Scholars Academy and our peer mentors is that these peer mentors, they go on to become leaders around the university. In terms of participating in different student organizations and clubs, presidents, right, student government association, and then you could, there's some pictures here. We had our homecoming king and queen from 2018. They were participants and peer mentors in the Scholars Academy program. And so it creates this infectious component around campus, getting students involved, and it helps create leaders as well. And so I wanted to contextualize that and add that.
All right, so as a part of the program, as Dr. Sluter talked about, the program is not just a 2-week early arrival program. There is a first-year experience, but we support these students throughout the whole entire time that they're in MTSU. We're supporting over 1,000 students total currently on our campus. So we don't let them go after that first year. We're always there as a support. The difference between the two programs, just to highlight here, as you can see, is the target population. Scholars Academy is looking for underrepresented students, first generation with certain ACT scores coming from metropolitan areas. STAR students, all students are welcome to be participants of the program. Both programs do our University 1010 course. One is 2 weeks, one is 1 week, and then one of them is consistent, kind of more intrusive check-ins. We do weekly check-ins with our Scholars Academy students. They have to meet us for student success coaching throughout the year. And then the STAR, we check in with them at midterm.
Just real quick, we want to put some information in the presentation that provides evidence of the successfulness of this program. And so this is a standard presentation here that you will see in any college that produces retention and graduation data. It's the most concise way, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to look at the same time, but those data are there to illustrate that being in the Scholars Academy does in fact make a difference. And so usually these are at-risk students to start with, and what we would see is a reversal. And so if we have a 75% one-year retention rate, in those students are in the Scholars Academy. Without that Scholars Academy, it's usually a 25% retention rate, just in terms of like, ballpark. It's an incredible outcome that we see that we're proud of, and so we wanted to show a couple of slides to you, and then to note, like we always do, we made incredible progress, and at the same time, we have room to go. And so this job is never done in terms of making a difference for those students. It's ever evolving, ever present. Second slide there is, so let's take a look at black male freshmen and non-scholars black male freshmen and see what the differences are and the comparisons for outcomes for 1, 2, 3, 4-year retention rates and then 6-year graduation rates. And so those data are, of course, available for your review. And so we get ready to conclude our presentation, and I'd like to invite Berlinda to make a few remarks, and then we will finish and be glad to answer any questions.
As you'll see on the slide, this is one of our initiatives also that comes out of our Scholars Academy programming. This is a Black Male Lecture Series. We invite students all over campus, and specifically our Scholars Academy Black Males. We bring professionals from different industries so that they can have an opportunity to network and hear about things, expose them to things that they've never learned about previously. So we've had music industry professionals, education professionals. We've also planned to work with aerospace professionals from many different industries to be able to expose these students. Also, we do community service within this program. Students bring 2 canned goods at the time of check-in. One goes to our food pantry here on campus, and the other half goes to our Rutherford County. We also make sure that we celebrate these students. So we have an open and a closing ceremony, which you'll see at the top right there of our students that are finishing the program and getting ready to start their fall semester. On the left side is a poster. I started again in 2018, and when I started, I met with peer mentors, and I asked them to just give me one word of what Scholars Academy is. And I was floored by their answers. I did not provoke them. I was learning at the time. It was literally my first week. They said Scholars Academy is a foundation. They said that it was fun, that it was enhancing. They said that it was effective. They said that it was family. They also said that it was a great way to get a head start of the game. And Scholars Academy is all of those things. It's a great way for our students to get a head start of this college academic career and journey.
Thank you for the opportunity to come in and tell the story, just a review about the work that goes on. We have 2 passionate people who are committed to that program and those students. There's nothing quite like seeing 450 students on our campus for the Scholars and Star Academy in a big tiered classroom doing any number of things. And so I tell a story. One of the coolest things I've seen since I've been here was to attend an event. It was in the evening. There were 450 students in the classroom. They were doing a fashion show. And so the fashion show was what to wear and what not to wear. And it's always a joke. I really couldn't tell the difference between the two a lot of times here, I'll tell you. And sometimes I could. I mean, it was obvious. But to see the camaraderie, the spirit, the team that was built, the onboard process and welcoming of students to make a difference through 2 weeks, who would guess that would make a difference? And so we'd be pleased to thanks to both of you for coming over and being a part of this. We'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Delaney has a question. Dr. Sluter.
Do you do any type of pre and post survey of students, like how they think Scholars Academy helped them or ways that it could be improved and more beneficial?
Sure.
Yes, we do informally. So we ask them questions. Their application, one question, asks, what motivates you to come to college? And then we also, at the end of that first year, we ask them about their experience. And our peer mentors are also very helpful in designing and planning our programming because they've been through it. So they're the ones that really give us a lot of feedback. Again, they're the boots on the ground, and so we hear kind of immediate feedback as the 2 weeks are going on and as well throughout the semester.
Okay.
I got several questions.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you, Travis and Belinda, for your presentation. I think I met both of you when I gave a speech to Scholars Academy a couple years ago. Hopefully you stayed awake. And if you did, thank you. The four-year graduation rate for African Americans at MTSU is 21.7%. 21.7%. The Scholars Academy is an awesome program. The work that you all are doing is amazing. I'm a first-generation Pell Grant recipient. Obviously, I'm black. The question I have for not necessarily the two of you, but to Dr. Sluter and the other folks in the room is, when I look at this data, the four-year graduation rate between whites and blacks, the gap continues to increase. Okay, that's from from another presentation that Dr. Sluter gave us. The gap continues to increase, and obviously you all are working very, very hard on that. But my question to you is, when I look at the Scholars Academy, the number of students that were in the academy, according to the documentation, the number of African Americans, the lowest performing section of our population, was 50. Is that correct? Oh, 50 African American males.
Yes.
In 2018, the number of African American males was 89. In 2017, the number of African American males was 75. In 2016, the number of African Americans were 70. Now, I'll give you some context. The number of African American males at MTSU in 2016 was 1,365. If we're going to move the needle, we're going to need more African American males in the program. So it's Dr. Sluter, when you compare the Scholars Academy graduation rate against the regular population graduation rate, it's such a small percentage of people. In 2019, we had 1,300 African American males, just 50 in the program. And so I love all the work that you're doing. I've mentored some young people in the Scholars Academy, a couple pilots that are now flying for the airlines that have flown with me to build ours. The program really, really works. So my question for you is, how do we go from, number one, why did we go from 89 down to 50 in the last couple of years in the Scholars Academy? But how do we grow this program to not have 50, but to have 500? How do we do that so that we can really make a difference, Mr. Chairman, in these numbers, in these graduation numbers?
So let me respond in a couple of ways. First, so these are fresh.
But I just want to know is my context correct? The number of people in the program versus?
It is, and so, and we look at a lot of data here, so I want to make sure that we're looking at exactly the same thing, but I think you're referring to the number of black males in the program by year. And so.
That's correct.
Yeah, and so I think you see that number that, declines in 2019 is because of our COVID or not?
2020 was
I'm
COVID,
sorry.
19 wasn't COVID.
Yeah. And so, I can get a better answer, believe me. And I don't know what the answer is offhand from 89 to 50.
I would just like to see it going the other way.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see it going not from 89 to 50.
All right.
I would like to see it going from 89 to 125 or 89 to 150.
Yeah, and so Belinda mentions something that's important. Look at the previous sheet where we look at the total number of participants of 461 in 2018.
Yes.
And of course, that went to 181 in 2019.
And I guess I was just focusing on a target population because where we're struggling as a university is the graduation rate for African American males. That's where we struggle. I mean, all the data that you've sent me and this board over the past 7, 8 months says that we are struggling with African American males graduating at MTSU. That the percentages, 21% on average, 21.7% four-year graduation rate is 21.7%. And so when I look at the program, I'm elated about the work you do. I'm elated to have both of you all here to explain the work that you do. My question is, Dr. Sluter, how do we expand that work to include more people so that we can change these charts, and so that we can, when the slide says eliminating the gap is getting bigger. I mean, the gap is getting bigger. It's not, I'm just repeating the data. It's not my data. I'm just repeating it. So, I mean, it's the data. The data is the data. So how do we, when you're in a business and you have one segment of your population not doing well, you put resources towards it, more resources to make it better. Is that correct, Pete?
You're responsible for running the overall business.
Yes. And so.
So a couple of responses, right?
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that we put some context in here. First, I think that it's important to know that this is an invitational program. And so we invite students into this program. We recruit them heavily. And we try to tell them, and as Berlinda noted, their parents, why this is the best program for their student. And so we've never had a forced conscription or a march where we would tell people you're in. The reason is because our entire student success initiative is based upon a dual responsibility. We've got a responsibility, and then students do as well. We try to build that so that they're a part of the plan. So there's one thing, and I'm not making excuses, believe me. And then I think those data that you're looking at, sir, are from last year. And so the update on there shows a 5% increase in both 4- and 6-year graduation rates. So I think you've got like 2019 data. And so, as you know, I love data. I talk about all.
I got it from you, Dr. Sluter.
Yeah, I think those are last year, though. And I think we look at those data, the graduation rates for black males over the past 6 years are greater than what they are for white males. And so the increase has been more. And then at the same time, we just know there's the gap in terms of what does exist. And that's our commitment to take care of that through any number of different programs, whether it's a Black Male Initiative or going after THEC grants. We've got 2 right now, really 3 focused on that, working with the APA. All those things are really structured in as a part of Quest 2025. So it's a part of a plan.
Dr. Sluter, may I just share with you some data that I got from you? Page 6 of your MTSU completion rates. The 6-year graduation rates went for African Americans went from 40% to 40.8% from 2013 from the 2013 cohort. The 6-year graduation rate for whites went from 43.9% in 2009 to 49%, a 10.4% increase, 5 times greater than the increase for African Americans. That's your data.
Yeah, and when I listen to you, sir, I know that those are from last year as well.
Yeah.
When you're, looking at 2019. So I don't want to argue points.
I can only discuss the data that you've provided me. If there's new data, then I would like to have it.
And so the data that are updated are in what I call the data pack. And so it's that thick pack of information that shows 4- and 6-year and a lot of other information too. Yeah. So working in this, in this venue, I just understand it's easy to get kind of lost and swim through all those things, but I'd be glad to update those.
That'd be awesome, and I'm ecstatic to hear from these two young people about the work that you're doing. Every life that you change, every person that comes to that program has got a shot. And so I applaud the work that you're doing, and we'll continue to, hopefully figure out a way that we can expand that work, because I understand the importance of getting an education and what it can do for you. So I appreciate all of that. We can achieve this. We can make this happen. Thank you.
Sure. I think I cut you off here.
Oh, I just wanted to talk about expanding the program. As I said, I came in 2018, and we had the largest enrollment, 500 students. And as a part of that, Dr. Sluter and I had a conversation. And so I said, let's see how many students we can get in the program. What I quickly learned was that it wasn't about the quantity of students. It was about the quality that we could provide to those students and the quality of the relationships. That's so important for those students. So I would say when we think about expanding, it has to go more than just about more students. It has to go deeper than that. We have to think about student success programming for student success population. So maybe it's not scholars, which is one spoke in the wheel, but maybe there are opportunities for other things. And I think that's where creativity comes into play to help with meeting the needs of those students.
Yeah. And Dr. Sluter, I would love to see the trend going in a different direction from 89 in 2018 to 50 in 2019. I would love to see a trend in the other direction.
Yes, sir. Two numbers of the day that these folks will always be asked for. Go, okay, what's the numbers? And the numbers right now are like, how many students are enrolled in that program for the fall? Because we're right in the cycle, right? We're 90-some days away. And second number always goes like, what's the number of the students who were here last year who enrolled for the fall? And so they carry those around, monitor them daily, work those groups, and do everything we can. We're committed to doing that.
Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Okay. How about this? Another quick review here. This is a follow-up to a question that was raised. So how much does it cost when we bring a student? Maybe I should say it this way. How much does it cost when we lose a student? When a student does not come back? And, this is what I'd like to spend just a few minutes talking about. This is the fiscal impact of our work. And so this is one of my favorite slides, this, and I will always say something like, if I could get my car wrapped, I would put this on it, because it shows what that first-year retention rate is for our freshmen since we started this program, and it moved from 68 to 78%. And so those are the hard, cold numbers.
Dr. Sluter, you gave some data out earlier today. I'm just trying to find where you are.
Yeah,
This is the front page. Okay. Front page. Thank you.
I'm hoping you've got the copy of this. If not, I'll make sure that you get one.
I'm pretty sure.
Let me back up. See.
Even worse, got our picture on the front.
Okay.
Dr. Sluter, is this all students? This retention rate for all students?
The retention rate is for freshmen.
Oh, for all freshmen?
For all full-time, all
thank you.
first-time.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
first-time, full-time freshmen, which is the convention. So this is it, sir. This is the one with a great picture on the front of the PowerPoint here. It's even an updated picture. So I hope you have this. If not, we'll make copies and make sure you get them. And it's a simple kind of walkthrough. Do you have this one, sir?
I got it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, sure. So there's that great picture, and then there's that great slide that shows all of our first-time, full-time freshmen and what the retention rate is. And so when I first arrived, the Faculty Senate invited me over for my second year. And they invited me and they said, we want to know how the investment's going. And we'd like for you to give us an update. I was pleased to go over there and break it down and to talk in these ways, to go, Here's the deal. How many more students, the way I always look at this, how many more students are at MTSU because of these gains? In other words, if we were still performing at the level we were in 2013, how many students would we have today? How many fewer students would we have today? If the retention rate for freshmen is 68% in 2013, it's 78% today. How about if it was still 68%? We had made no difference. There was no change. And so it's a simple mathematical calculation. What's the fiscal impact of these additional students? And so that's the background for this. And so it's easy to calculate when we look and just look at freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. We don't put seniors in there because they do things like graduate and they put some noise in these data. But in any case, here's that yellow box on this slide that says if we were doing the same thing as we were in 2013, we'd have 803 fewer students, 803. That's something. 800, and so just with those three groups, freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And then really, here's the money slide. And so what does that mean? You have 803 students. And so the math has all been verified by Alan Thomas there, who, makes sure we keep these numbers on the up and up. And the fact of the matter is that this increase means an additional $3.2 million that we generate one semester, just in the fall semester. So if we were still doing the same thing as we were in 2013, we would have $3.2 million less. We'd have 803 fewer students at our institution. And so that includes the tuition and then the fees. And there's no other revenue generation, which of course there are things in there. So it's a quick way. It reminds me of talking with the faculty senate that year and went over and produced the numbers. I said, here's the return. That's the reason we do this. It's, a difference made and lives changed. That's all part of it. That's why we do the work. At the same time, there's a fiscal basis for the work that we do, and we always have to be able to show the product in the end. So.
Madam Chair, may I add a comment to that? As you all know, we don't finalize our budget until after enrollment. And we have always been zeroing on enrollment because there are two revenue sources that runs the university: appropriation from the state and tuition fees. So for every student that don't return, obviously that's a fiscal impact. We are very much aware of that. Like many, and I think you're going to be dealing with the number of non-returners. You have that presentation. For every student we see, our goal is to retain that student and make sure that that student graduates. Now, for all kinds of reasons, students stop out. Life happens to them. We try to work with those students. How many students do you call in your division who have dropped out and had some credits, and we try to get back? When you speak to that, Dr. Sluter?
We started with 5,000, right? Students who stopped out and hadn't returned, and we went back several years, and the president gave us money to call them. And so we put together the 5 extra people plan. We had 5 extra people making calls 3 hours a night. And we graduated 15 students immediately by doing that. But now we're down to 1,000. Every year we look and we pull those students who've been out longer than 2 years, have a certain grade point average, are eligible to return. We work them until we can get them back.
How many do you get, might I ask?
Sure.
That's a neat number because that's a follow-up sales call, and that's a good number. But if you call 1,000, how many do we get back that you think wouldn't have come back otherwise? I mean, do you have that number?
I don't offhand. One of the complications is in modern life, of course, people don't answer their phone. And so that's a complication. And so we have an email communication flow that we go after those students with. It's pretty sophisticated as well. But I'm sorry I don't have that conversion.
Well, what I was thinking out loud is if it's worth it money-wise, then maybe we should have the money to call them twice. I mean, or if it's not working, maybe we should go to a blast email in lieu of a call. I don't have any of that. It'd be fun to know, because we're trying to move the needle, what the success rate. So do we double up on that, or do we try another approach? You with me? I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea as well.
I'd love to see if it's working good, let's double up on it. If it's not working so well, let's think about it's my understanding that people read text 4 times more likely than they are email. So I don't know how long that'll last. That won't last forever.
You're talking about me, Chairman.
Well, that's what I know with politics. We send somebody a text, they're about 4 times more likely to read it than an email. All that to say, great work, and you're a numbers guy, so it'd be nice to turn those numbers into, so Dr. McPhee will know how to invest. Should we double or triple or stop? You know, thank you. Great job.
And Dr. Sluter, you might want to the chairman's point, the first year we had some success, and I pulled money from our budget that you requested to do that. The second year, because we had some success, we increased that budget in order to call more students. And so it's a work that we just continue to do. And there are some factors that we have control of and some that we don't. But we are working hard. It is in our best interest, in the best interest of the state, to have every student that enroll in this university to graduate. We are funded based on that. And so we zero in. I chaired an enrollment management group that Dr. Sluter and others have been working on, and we met almost weekly. So yes, we can do better, and we will do better. But I wanted to make sure that the investment that we put at the university, without any additional funding coming from the state, we had to take it out of our hides. And we want to do better. We're not where we want to be and where we would like to be, but we're working on it.
I would like to mention from a perspective, and I'm not sure if it's on, from another perspective academically, some people come to stay a semester and leave, or to stay a year and leave, because they're prepping for a degree we don't have, or like a medical degree or a law degree, and they come to MTSU because they get the foundational material that they really need. They know they get the individual attention that students don't always get in other institutions if they aren't matriculating from that institution, and then they move on, and they will never graduate from our institution because that was never the intent. So you're never going to get everybody graduating because that's not the mission we have. I mean, you want to get you want everybody who comes to the university who wants to graduate from the university graduated, but you're never going to see a piece of data that says 100% of the students that came to MTSU graduated, because a large piece of our students in summer school, for example, we have a huge number of people coming from UT Knoxville to MTSU to take summer math courses, transfer the credits back to UT Knoxville, and continue their degree over there. So they are never going to, they're going to be in our data system, they're going to be attendees of MTSU, but they're never going to graduate from MTSU because that was never their goal. So I wanted to add that because it makes the data collection very hard to compare apples to apples.
And just one other quick follow-up, Vice Chairman Freeman, you had asked the question, which is a good question, as to what is the financial impact of a student that does not return, both in tuition and fees. And you can do the reverse of that slide up there. For 803 students that not return to our university, and you can multiply whatever number that is, the university doesn't get $3.7 million with tuition and fees. And so we are aware of that. Obviously, for students who are eligible and have made the grade, we make every effort to get them back on campus, because we want them for the education to get a degree, but secondly, we also have a business operation here that generate revenue.
So I got, Dr. Slater, I'm going to go back to the data that you provided me. And we talked 803 students, we miss out on $3,032,000 bucks. Is that what that says?
One semester, yeah. So
One semester. One semester.
Yeah, so that would have been in the fall semester. They didn't show up.
Okay.
That's how much less we would have in our revenue.
And I'm going to go back to the slide, eliminating the gap, page 10. And our falls for African Americans in our fall class, we had 3,614. In our fall 20 class, we had 2,850. The number is declining. Okay? That's for African Americans. A 22% decrease. Okay? 22% decrease. For the full-time undergraduate population, 2016, same period, we had 16,019 students. And in fall 20, we had 15,520, a 4% decrease. My question is, if we're able to retain African-American students at the rate that we're able to retain other students, what would the impact be? That's another financial question, because, you know, in business, we often talk about what does it cost to lose a customer. And if we got one group of customers that's leaving at a higher rate than the other group of customers, we want to figure out how can we prevent that from happening and making sure that their exit number, if you will, is even. And so outside of the personal loss, if you will, of a student coming here and not graduating, but if you look at the financial side of it, there is some impact in having this disparity.
Yes, sir, there is. And so this is one illustration. We can, of course, go deeper and take a look at what that is. I've got some more data in a second that speaks to the issue that you raised. And it's just a couple of slides, but Chairman Smith, your question reminds me of making sure I give you a full answer. And so the president, about 9 months ago, authorized us to enter into an agreement with EAB, which is a service provider, and the Adult Learner Recruitment Initiative, which uses some of the highest order analytics to identify students who dropped out, and for us to use a sophisticated channel of communications that are multi-channel to draw those students back. And we're right in the middle of that. We're in our 4th month of having launched that. And the types of questions that you were asking are exactly what we're getting every week. So we can look at that funnel, we can see where students are at, we can see what, the communications are and what we have to do to move the needle on those students. So I didn't want to forget to mention that and
I want to, if I can, piggyback on what, oh, sorry. Can I speak now?
She's the chairman, I'm just.
No, I was going to piggyback on your word, what you said. Is it okay?
Okay, sure.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Thank you, Pam. Sorry about that. The funding formula for middle places some additional reward for graduating first generation college students. Was that taken in effect for the numbers that you put up there? Because on our website, we talk about the funding formula and the percentage increase of revenue you get, because the state does have a push on getting first-generation college students out.
Absolutely, we did not. So this is tuition and fees alone. But you're right, that funding formula has impact in terms of the accumulation of performance over a period of time.
Yes, and so the state has particularly said to all of our universities, first-generation college goers, we're going to give you more. We're going to provide you more money. So back to what Chairman was saying, if we can figure out what the number is because we're not graduate, because we got these disparities, what that costs the university, then you can take that, let's say if it's $10 million, I just throw out an easy number since I wasn't a math person, but let's say if it's costing us $10 million, we may want to say, let's take $1 million and put it in the Scholars Program or some other program that we may reap another $8 or $9 million because we did that. And the reason why I'm trying to figure out what the number is, because if you think you can get $10 million back and you're losing 10, but you could put 1 in to make a difference, that's why I'm so data focused on these numbers, Dr. Sluters, because I'm trying to come up with I already have a personal case. I'm trying to come up with a business case that says, let's allocate more funds.
One of the problems with the formula funding, and I believe President McPhee can correct me if I say this wonky, one of the problems with the formula funding is that MTSU, because we have done so well in the past, gets fewer dollars for doing better than other institutions that are governed by the formula funding. So, in other words, they go by this methodology that if you look at the dollars per student awarded to MTSU in our formula funding, we get, I don't have a figure, maybe half as much for increasing our first-time generation graduation rate. We get half of what Austin Peay gets or half of what TSU gets. So that is a discrepancy in the formula funding that actually hinders our ability to use this in our business model.
And the reason for that is, as you said, the success that we have made in recruiting Pell-eligible student, first generation. If you look at the numbers, and it's in the formula funding, and I've shared it with a number of you, we are almost 2, 3, 4 times higher in this group of students than any other state university. And it's one of the reasons why the last 2 stimulus funding that we received from the federal government, MTSU got one of the largest amount of dollars. Why? Because of our success with first-generation Pell-eligible students that are enrolled at the university compared with the other universities. So it's a real challenge. And to Trustee Martin's point, if we go down, we have 2,000 plus, just a number, students. We go down in the Formula 5. Austin Peay, and you can look at the numbers, might have, just for example's sake, 50. They go up 10. We lose money. Austin Peay gets money. And so it's almost a negative reinforcer for being successful. And that's a challenge, and I know we've raised that issue, Alan. The Department is going through a review right now, and we have made that issue a major one for TEC to take a look at.
And one of the reasons, Madam.
No, okay.
One of the reasons that we have that problem is because MTSU began so long ago working on exactly these issues that Trustee Freeman has brought up. We've been working on these issues since 2005, 2006, 2007, making progress as we go along, and we did it when it was the right thing to do, not when it was formula-based. We did it because it was the right thing to do, and we continue to do it because it's the right thing to do, and if we can make the money work out, then that's icing on the cake. But right now, the structure of TEC and the formula funding is actually working against us to continue putting efforts in this area of any drastic amount, but we continue to do it because it's the right thing to do.
All right, now I'm going to suggest we let Dr. Sluter continue and finish his presentation. Have you finished your presentation?
I've got 3 more slides.
Okay, all right. Does that work for everybody? Let's let him finish his presentation.
They're quick, too. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for the time that you've given to this. One of the questions that we look at is like, okay, so the number of students has declined at MTSU. The number of black students has declined at MTSU. Really, this slide looks at what's the proportion of different races and ethnicities and gender at MTSU over a 10-year period of time. This is for all students, the one that you see here. And I've got it for undergraduates. We don't have to go through all that, but it's pretty simple to understand. In fall of 2011, 18.3% of our students were black. In fall of 2020, 19.6% of our students are black. And then look down through the rest of the categories. Hispanics in fall 2011, 3.3%, fall 2020, 7%. Let's jump over to look at white students. In fall of 2011, 71% of our students were white. In fall of 2020, 65.7% are white. The proportion of race and ethnicity and students of different backgrounds is larger today than what it was 10 years ago. So it's just a little bit of data that I don't want to swarm you with, but to inform you a little bit. The last slide, and I'll jump over here because there's undergrads, but the last slide is this one, and I think the question is, why have college enrollments declined nationally? Which is true nationally. And so the three most common cited reasons are here. And then there's some resources listed at the bottom in real fine print that can get you a lot more detail. And so it's a little bit of information. I do want to thank you for the time that you dedicate to looking at these issues. I return to the couple points I make frequently, and that is, of course, we love doing this work, right? And you see that reflected in the spirit of the people that come along to tell the story about their programs and other folks that you've seen too. And so we are committed to doing our best and doing better. We've made gains. We've got more to do, and we're committed to doing that day in and day out. And so thank you again.
Excellent presentation.
Yes, fabulous.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Dr. Sluter. Well, we've already had a healthy discussion, so we can move on to our next agenda item, which is approval of tenure and promotion candidates, which is an action item. And Provost Burns.
Right, every year we bring to you a list of faculty members who've gone through the very lengthy and rigorous process of applying for tenure and promotion, and you see before you the names of those who have been recommended at the various levels and ultimately by the president and are now here for your consideration.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion?
Yeah, a couple questions. In this group of folks, Dr. Burns, what kind of diversity do we have?
There's three of them named Smith.
I would-
and Ken.
I would like to make a mention about that direction at this point. We have a motion on the floor that's been seconded, and the motion is to address tenure and promotion for faculty, which is the core of our academic pursuits. And we need to take care of that business at this point in time. So I would like to suggest politely that we take care of our business. Talking about diversity is something we can do after we take care of the motion and the second.
I think the way it works is, and counsel, I'll have to depend upon you. The motion was made and there was a second, and I said questions, which means we get a chance to have some discussion about it. Is that correct?
The discussion has to be on target to the tenure and promotion motion, not a general broad-ranging discussion, in my opinion, and that's what I bring to the board.
I would say you're correct. The discussion does have to be on target. It would be the discretion of the chair as to whether the discussion is on target. It would be a point of order objection. If the discussion is veering off target, that could be decided.
So diversity is not a...
Diversity is not on the table with tenure and promotion. The tenure and promotion is the credentials and performance of the people on this list.
And
We do not tenure and promote.
as a diverse individual on this board, I think that's conversation we can have. But if it's the pleasure of the chairperson of the committee not to find out if we got diversity in this group of folks, I'm fine with that.
And I
Madam
would
Chair?
mention, I have no objection to us going in that direction just after we take care of the business.
Madam Chair, we certainly can get that information to you, Trustee Freeman. And I don't know, we have it here because we didn't anticipate
No,
a
I do
question.
not have that.
But we will get that information to you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay, that handles that. We'll defer to administration for that information, and we've had discussions, so I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries for tenure and promotion of the proposed candidates.
If I may, who made the second?
Me.
Thank you.
So now we have Dr. Sales, an information item, application and enrollment. I'm sorry, did I miss an agenda item?
No, I'm subbing for Dr.
okay.
Sells on this.
Okay.
Today's
I saw that look.
Hey, Madam Chair, Dr. Sells is working hard to increase the numbers that we're talking about. We have orientation going on right now for freshmen.
Yeah, today's a
And so,
customs day, right?
Yeah,
Dr. McPhee? So I agreed to sub and give you the highlights of where we are, looking both at summer and fall. Good news for this summer, we're up 453 students over the same date last year, which is an increase of 6.93%. So we're excited about that. For fall in undergraduates, we are currently down 500 students, which is a decrease of 3.6%. One important thing to note, though, in these numbers is customs days or custom sessions at which students register fall at different points during the summer. And so day to day, sometimes you're talking about a different number of custom sessions. And that's what happened this year. There's actually been one fewer transfer customs at which we expect to register about 200 students. So our best guess is that that number is not really 3.6% down, it's about 2% down. As of right now. You know, it's such a weird year, it's hard to make too many predictions about where we're going to wind up, given coming out of the pandemic. Usually we look at trends and guess based on last year what might happen this year. We're a little bit less comfortable given all the flux that's going on now. But the name of the game right now is yield. And so Deb's staff and we in academic affairs are working really hard to increase the yield rate from those students who have been admitted. If we increase it from our historical average of 41% to 46%, and nothing else changes, we'll hit the same size freshman class as we had last year. Now, that's a big lift, frankly. I don't know if we'll do it, but we've achieved big lifts before, and we hope also that the full reopening of campus that we're going to have this fall will attract some more freshmen. Graduate numbers continue to be excellent. For summer, again, compared to same day last year, we're up by 426 students, or a whopping 30.2%. Graduate school is going gangbusters. For fall, we're up 559 students, or 44.4%. So we're really happy with those numbers, and if we do wind up a little bit lower on undergrads, the graduate students will provide something of a buffer. We also track international students. Now, they are reflected in the undergraduate and graduate numbers, but because it's a special population, we track them separately. This is a tough time for international student recruitment for obvious reasons, political and health-wise. And even in a normal year, it's very difficult to predict where the international number will wind up, just because of the way it operates. Traditionally, international students don't really show up until right before the fall semester begins. So we can look at applications, which are currently at 825, which is a 2.4 decrease from last year. The good news is that admits are up. We've improved the processes in the graduate college and have beefed up our offerings, so we have more admitted students. We just don't know yet if they're going to show up. I see that the expert now has entered the room just as I finished the report, but Madam Chair, if there are questions, Deb will be happy to answer them.
Any further discussion, questions of Provost Burns? All right, thank you. Thank you for those good numbers and good information. All right, our last agenda item is athletics update with Chris Massaro. Chris, we're a little over schedule, but we don't want to cut you short, but just note that.
Okay, I'll be brief and just wanted to let you guys know just kind of where we are. We get the PowerPoint up, yeah. So I start every staff meeting that we have on Mondays really with two items. We do an academic report, then we do a sports report, and then really all the other things are really to support those two missions. And just a personal background of mine is my father was superintendent of schools, and we always believed that high academic achievement and high athletic achievement, they're not mutually exclusive, but those lines do intersect. And that's been a real foundation of what we've tried to preach all the way through. So just as a kind of a year-end report for you guys, where we are academically and athletically on this. So let me see here. The most important thing is this slide here is our graduations. And in the fall of 2020, we graduated 18. In the spring, this a couple weeks ago, 46, so 64 in this calendar year. I think we're probably around 15 more in the summer. Depends on some of their progress, but that's a pretty normal number for us. And just kind of some academic achievement, particularly from the spring semester. We had 209 student athletes make the Conference USA honor roll. As you can see, that's up from a year ago. We had, and that's students with a 3.0 and above. The Conference USA Academic Medal, which is 3.75 and above. We had 67 student athletes, and that's up from 58 from a year ago. And we had 57 of our student athletes this spring semester score a perfect 4.0. 213 of 355 student athletes, or about 64%, had a 3.0 or higher this spring semester. Our women's golf team won our internal derby for having the highest GPA for women's sports. They're at a 3.789, and our men's tennis team won the overall championship for having the best cumulative GPA, and that's a 3.907. So if you had a 3.8 in men's tennis, you really brought the average down. So just remarkable what those guys do. This is our APR, most current stats. I think that there will be some retention numbers that will happen in the fall and those kind of things, and we'll submit to the NCAA in October basically what our newest one will be and get some sort of validation in that next December. But you can see we hover around the 980s as a department. A perfect score is 1,000. We've got several teams that scored a perfect 1,000 in the most recent one. So our APR is very good. That there's nobody that's in academic difficulties. Team-wise, there are penalties if you fall below 930 on your 4-year cumulative. There's some staggered penalties that the NCAA imposes, and we don't have anybody that's really in any sort of danger of that. Our graduation success rate, I talked about this. These are figures released really in last October, so I don't think this is new to you guys. But as a department, we're at 93%. That's the NCAA measurement of graduation success rate. And that was second in our conference. And it just kills me that Rice beat us out. They were at 94%, and we're at 93%. So I do take some solace that if we're going to get beat, it's going to be by an academic institution such as Rice, but we would like to catch that. Football is the highest in our conference, and you can see where they are nationally at 95%. If it's too small a writing for you, I'll be happy to list the institutions that we're associated with on graduation success rate. Northwestern was 97%, Duke 97%, and we were tied with Vanderbilt at 95%. So 8 of our programs, 8 of our teams scored a perfect 1,000 on their graduation rate. And this is kind of one of my favorite slides as well. Again, talking about this relationship between academics and athletic success, we led the conference this year in league titles. Nobody won more league titles than Middle Tennessee. As you can see it, we won, and it depends on how, and different schools count them different ways. So I put up both ways. If you count the divisional titles as part of a league title, we still win or have clinched victory. We could be theoretically tied with baseball if Charlotte or Western Kentucky would win the baseball tournament. We could be tied on that. But the overall championships with 5 sports that have won championships this year, nobody can catch us on that. The most anybody could get is 4 with Charlotte. So our teams that have won the championships this year were women's cross country, women's basketball won both the divisional and the tournament title, men's tennis, men's golf, and women's outdoor track were the 5 that were the champions. We still got our issues. You know, men's basketball and football need to perform better. Those are the ones that our fans have the highest profile. I feel like they've had really good off seasons, but we know what winning looks like, and I feel like those programs have the foundation for success, and I'm excited to see their progress over the summer and see kind of those results next fall. But those are really 2 of the teams that really need a little bit of a lift. We also came very close in winning some championships in other sports or some other notable achievements. Our women's golf team finished 2nd in the Conference USA tournament, and our baseball team made the conference tournament for the first time since 2015. So we're showing progress in that sport. So the trajectory is good there. So those are our kind of the quick little, Madam Chairman, our quick little 6-slide presentations on what happened this year academically and athletically. So I will take any questions if you have any.
Chris, Chris, make a couple of points of order. First, can you send us this data, please?
Sure.
Second, is the BRAA publicizing this and sending it out in marketing? If they are, I'm missing it.
Well, we're waiting really for the baseball to be complete.
Okay.
So we can crown ourselves champions, you know, on that. So yeah, there's going to be a package deal on that.
Third thing, strategic plan for the modernization of our athletic facilities. Drawings. Where are we?
Yeah, and that's the most important thing that we have really on our docket, because it's going to be really difficult to sustain our success that we've had athletically without the facilities piece. So we have to, we're about halfway in terms of our funding and private fundraising to get to the mark where we need to get to go to the state building
Is that
commission.
$60 million? What are we talking about?
No, it's about 2.5 that we need right now, and so feel very good about that. I have a personal goal. I'd love to have it in tow by September, so we can go. I think the facilities really are even more important in the new modern world of college athletics. When you start looking at the changes, these massive changes that are coming with name, image, and likeness legislation for our student athletes, and then the freedom in the transfer portal to basically shop your wares to other schools, it's going to be really important for us to keep up with our facilities. It's always been a goal of mine, you know, and sometimes you can't you might lose a kid to Ohio State, but it would really bother me if we lost them to a peer institution. You know, yeah, and a transfer,
Recruitment transfer issue.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and that kind of thing, and sometimes it's getting close to home, and those kind of things that happen to peer institutions. But we have to do everything we can to protect our assets, to protect what we've built, and to take us to a different level, and that really is with facilities. So I would really like to get that thing going in September. Where we can go to the State Building Commission and say, here we go, let's go.
Chris, can you remind, it's been so long since we had that presentation, can you remind me of what the budget for that activity is?
Which activity are you?
The renovation of.
Oh, it's the first wave, which is the football or the Student Athlete Performance Center is $66 million, and that includes some renovations to the stadium, the parking lot, and some of the aesthetics surrounding it. So we've got that going. We've got about a $5 million renovation and build on our outdoor tennis courts, which is coming to fruition. We're also cutting a ribbon on a men's golf facility, which is about $1 million, indoor hitting facility at the Grove in Williamson County.
Very nice.
It's beautiful. And then we did, I think it was about $600,000 on softball renovations this year as well, with the new stands and kind of dressing up their stadium.
So of the $66 million, how much of that do we have to raise?
Well, to get us to the State Building Commission is $5 million.
So we've got to raise $5 million? And you said you're at $2.5 million?
Yeah.
And the state will fund the other 61?
No, this board passed basically the student fee.
Okay.
That will help finance that. And that fee was passed 2 or 3 years ago.
It's been so long.
It's been a while, yeah.
3 years ago.
Okay.
3 years. So we're excited about it. Received some new drawings from architects on the master plan yesterday, which if I'd have known I had questions, I apologize for not bringing that with us, but showing new elements into that area where a possible hotel might go, what the tennis courts will look like, and those kind of things.
Then we have some kind of relationship with the city of Murfreesboro, and as it relates to this?
Yeah, they're interested in what they've told us is mostly in the second phase of this, where we would convert the Murphy Center and not convert it, to redo it into more of an entertainment center, make it more concert friendly and those kind of things. And I think that that's what they've indicated to us, that they'll be more interested in that project. They see that as more of a community-wide deal than perhaps the Student Athlete Performance Center.
Okay.
So it's all kind of, and we're also working hard on some naming rights opportunities. And the company that I've been talking to basically is their timetable for decision is somewhere in July. And so that would be very good, where we could maybe name it the sports park or something in that neighborhood for that. And that would be a very significant deal as well.
Let me congratulate you on the graduation rates. That's really, really amazing and life-changing in the 90% range. That's like everybody's graduating, and so that's pretty awesome.
I think anything that gets accomplished here in our department is always a collective effort, and I'm happy to take your congratulations. The expert that was at Customs also, I mean, that with Dr. Sells, that the academic tutors and counseling reports through her, so that's very integral in what we do. And quite honestly, I think we've got coaches that really believe in that mission as well, and they enforce it, and it's part of the team's cultures. And I think that I'm a firm believer that the rising tide lifts all boats. and so.
It's going to start sending all the students to your department.
Well, we pour a lot of resources into it, and to be fair, we've got some advantages that the normal counselors don't, and playing time is a big deal, and participation in our activities is a big deal. So that's a big hammer that we have that maybe other counselors might not have when they're dealing with the academically underprepared.
Yeah, it served my oldest son well. He had a higher GPA here playing sports than he did in high school, and now he's a third-year law student. So.
Yeah, and I think that, and that's good to hear, and it's good to hear you had a great experience. And I think our kids and what they do better when they're in season, typically academically, than in the off season, because time management becomes really critical for them, and so a lot of human beings like to procrastinate and wait if they feel like they've got plenty of time to write that term paper, on Thursday when I got an afternoon, and when you're compressed for time, you might not have that luxury. So I do believe in keeping our student athletes busy and keeping them productive. Any other questions? Thank you, and thank you for all the support for athletics.
No, I don't have a
Okay,
question.
thanks.
Madam Chairman, I'd just like to share a thought or two, if I may.
Okay, certainly.
I know we're running a little bit over, but I just wanted to share a thought or two. We as a board are charged with managing the university as a whole. We as a board we have one person that works under us, and that's Dr. McPhee. And then it's our responsibility to set the course, set the agenda, and make sure we move forward on that. We've seen some great presentations today from Dr. Sluter, from others, and I'm very appreciative of those. I think we all agree that graduation is the reason students come to this school. They come to this school in order to get a degree, to be able to make a living in their future activities. And we want that to happen. That is the most important thing for us to accomplish. We've got approximately 22,000 customers who are dependent on us to do that. From Dr. Sluter's presentation, we've seen that we've got a much more diverse group today than we had 10 years ago. But regardless of that, every student who comes here and every family that represents that student has got a lot to be proud of if those students graduate. I saw Trustee McDonald graduated here recently. I know her family must be proud, and I know she must be. To manage any enterprise, you have to have a clear goal that everyone understands. A lot of times with the granularity of information, it's easy to get confused and get distracted. Our graduation rates need to go up at our university. I would like to ask our board to consider establishing a top priority, which would be to increase our graduation rates, our 6-year graduation rates. We argue about 4-year and 6-year. 6 years is the number that we have been shown over time, that we expect as a board our 6-year graduation rates to increase by 5% in the coming 5 years. I think that is I would like to suggest that as a motion, that our board consider adopting that as our primary priority. We have to serve all of our constituents, and that we would do no better service than making it clear to all of the students, all of the faculty, everyone at the university that our expectation is that we're going to increase graduation rates at the university in the coming years.
Hey, Pete, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
When you say increase it,
Could we have a motion on the floor, if we can have a second, and then we'll have discussion?
I second it
Okay.
for discussion.
We have a second now, discussion.
So, Pete, when you say 5%, are you saying going from 46% to 51%?
That is
or
what
you're
I'm saying. Yes, sir.
So that's actually more. That's like 10% if you do it that way. So just to be able to put a number with it, my
principal point, Trustee Freeman, is to recognize that we have 22,000
Yes.
students here, all of whom are dependent on us to promote their graduation from this university. And that we as a board want to acknowledge
Yes.
that we are responsible to all 22,000 students here and their families, and the taxpayers of Tennessee.
And I second that motion because we have 22,000 students here, and we can't go wrong with setting a graduation target, because for us to do that, to get to the target, everybody's got to be able to perform. So I'm 199% in. I don't know what the number should be, but I second the motion so that we could have discussion about the motion.
As Mr. Sorrow said, a rising tide will lift all boats.
Yes, and there's some boats that need to be lifted.
And Dr. McPhee, you had a comment, I think.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just would like to say that our strategic plan, Quest 2025, that our provost and our faculty have put together about a year ago, we actually have that very same number. I think we even put it up once, is it 6%? To 60% over the next 5 years. So we're very supportive, and it'd be very helpful to have the board endorse that. Very much consistent with what our strategic plan calls for.
May
I second.
May I amend my motion to align with the strategic plan?
And I amend my second to agree with it.
Hang on, if we could, we actually need a motion to amend the original motion, seconded by
Darrell Freeman.
By Trustee Freeman, and then a vote on whether to amend the original motion.
Okay.
And then once the original motion has been amended, we can consider the revised motion.
Call for the question.
I'm sorry. did you
Second.
have a comment?
No, I have not.
Okay.
So the vote on the motion to amend,
So do we have, all those in favor, say aye of
Aye.
to amend the motion?
Aye.
okay.
Those opposed? All right, now we'll.
Now we need to restate what the amended motion is.
Okay.
Pete.
Pete, do you want to restate?
I did not
Jeff,
get it
do you wanna
written down.
restate it?
The amended motion is for our board to make our number one priority consistent with the strategic plan of increasing the graduation rate of the entire university over the coming 5 years.
Right, so the motion has been made. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, we may have had a second already.
Oh.
All right, any discussion before we have a vote on that motion?
I think it's interesting, Pam, that if we looked at, I'm looking at the TEC graduation rates. This is the 2013 cohort. That's I think the most latest information. But if we accomplish our goal and everybody else stays the same, we would have the highest of the LGIs. We'd have the highest African-American graduation rate, and we would move within about 1% of the highest Caucasian graduation rate. So I think it's a very good goal and a challenging goal. So, but it would put us very near the top of all the categories according to TEC.
So I think it's great that this committee's recommending that to the board for approval. And I think we've seen some really positive numbers today. If we look at the 6-year rate, which I know is what we are to be looking at because that's what THEC is presenting. So I want to thank, we don't have anything for, have we already voted on this?
We have not voted on
I'm
the amended
sorry.
motion.
Okay, I was making closing remarks. I apologize. All right, so all those in favor of the motions, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Okay, the motion carries. So I just, as a closing remark, want to say that I appreciate all the input today. I do think, and I appreciate so much the presenters, and I think we saw some very positive data when we look at the 6-year rates, which is what we're comparing to. And so I appreciate all the committee work that's gone behind this, and the meeting is adjourned.
Why don't we give a 5-minute break and then we'll start the next one?
Sounds good.